They slapped the villain label on him. Pickens was notorious for sideline meltdowns, for chucking his helmet when the ball didn't come his way. They were obviously done managing a personality that big, and then Dallas took a gamble on him, and just like that, he became a monster. George Pickens stormed onto the scene as arguably a top 5 receiver in football, and I'm not even sure there's an argument. He snagged 7 catches for over 20 yards. That's top 3 in the entire league. So what's the real story? Was he a locker room cancer or a megastar suffocating in the wrong system? To get the answer, we have to go back to the very place that forged his fire, long before anyone else tried to write his narrative for him. Birmingham, Alabama, where football isn't a pastime, it's a prerequisite. George Pickens was raised in the heart of that storm. A small house, a family that competed over everything, and a father who taught him that toughness wasn't about talking, it was about taking a hit and getting right back to your feet. When I first brought him home from when he was born, man, it was the best day of my life. George was just 4 when he first strapped on the pads, his helmet wobbling over his eyes, his jersey practically swallowing him whole. He played for the Eastlake Cowboys, with his own dad calling the shots. When did that stickiness become obvious? Were you like 2 years old catching stuff out of the club or side yard football? Tell some family stories. Yeah, I started playing contact football when I was 4. Jeez. Wow. While the other kids were learning fundamentals, George was learning how to dominate, turning every ounce of frustration into fuel and every mistake into a weapon. He didn't just play sports, he conquered them. Football, basketball, baseball, track, if you could keep score, he was going to win. Then a late growth spurt detonated, and the entire equation changed. All of a sudden, he was a freak of nature, skying over defenders, ripping the ball straight out of the air, and bulldozing kids twice his weight. So, when he set foot in Hoover High, Alabama's legendary football factory, he wasn't rattled. He was built for the pressure cooker long before he ever saw the spotlight. Just stay with me and stay connected. And Hoover High School is not normal football. It's a machine, a nationally ranked juggernaut where 4-star talent is just the starting point, and the only expectation is a championship ring, not a pat on the back. Most players walk in just hoping to survive. George Pickens kicked the door down and immediately started running the place. He was this long, wiry kid making these insane circus catches over senior defensive backs. What's that? Impossible jump balls, absurd toe-tap grabs, back shoulder throws that looked like they defied physics. And it wasn't just the physical gift, it was the ferocious edge he played with. His games turned into spectacles. Kick return touchdowns where the entire stadium swore he was tackled 3 different times. A legendary chase down against IMG Academy where he flat out sprinted 60 yards to erase a surefire touchdown. By his senior year, the numbers were insane. 69 catches, 1,368 yards, and 16 touchdowns, cementing his status as Alabama's #1 player. And a national 5-star recruit. The Giants came calling Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, LSU. His first choice was Auburn. It was close to home, comfortable, the predictable path. It's really just a longevity type process. I'm committed to Auburn. Schools that are other interests are like Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Florida, Florida State, Alabama, Tennessee, LSU, and Miami. A vision of championships, NFL development, and a stage where he knew he could claim a national title. George Pickens had what? This is official. This is real. George Pickens has flipped to Georgia. It's probably one of the hardest decisions I'd ever make in my life. Just culture-wise, knowing that Curvis Martin, he's always going to be with like a national championship. When George Pickens set foot in Athens, he wasn't joining some rebuilding project. He was walking into the belly of the beast. Georgia, one of the deepest, most brutal, most demanding programs in America. A place where 5-star recruits are routinely buried on the depth chart. But Pickens didn't fight for playing time. He seized it. He didn't move like some rookie trying to fit in. He moved like the future #1 receiver who already owned the damn building. And by the halfway point of the season, Georgia's offense ran directly through him, a true freshman, in 2019. He torched the team stats with 49 catches, 727 yards, and 8 touchdowns, becoming Jake Fromm's emergency eject button, a red zone cheat code, and the ultimate just throw it up weapon. George will handle it, receiver. His explosive debut put the country on notice, but nothing could have prepared anyone for the demolition that came next. The Sugar Bowl against Baylor. On his career's biggest stage, Pickens didn't just play, he detonated. He throws for Pickens, he runs under it, catches it, and a touchdown for Georgia. 12 catches, 175 yards, and a touchdown. It wasn't just a breakout performance, it was a hostile takeover. Pickens proved he wasn't just another 5-star prospect. Touchdown. He was the kind of player who could bend a game to his will. If freshman George Pickens introduced the world to his talent, sophomore George Pickens introduced the world to his fire. You got the good and you got the bad. Because at a place like Georgia, every single emotion is amplified. Every game is a national headline. Every mistake becomes a crisis. The first cracks started to show early. A tense exchange against Tennessee, where he sprayed an opponent with a water bottle from the sideline. A harmless bit of trash talk that the media machine spun into a national controversy. That's just disappointing. It's silly behavior. When somebody comes out of bounds and you squirt water at them, what are we? Are we 7, 8 years old? Come on. Then, the Georgia Tech game, a late game powder keg, helmets were ripped off, shoves were thrown, the kind of raw, unfiltered rage that happens on a football field far more often than anyone likes to admit. Except this time, it all went down live on camera. This is why it's selfish. Okay, watch the right hand for Pickens come in. Okay, that's not good. And look, I get it. Tempers flare, but here's the reality. The other guy in that fight didn't have a game to worry about the next week. Pickens was thrown out instantly, and the penalty bled into the SEC championship, forcing him to sit for the entire first half. The world branded him immature, out of control. But what they couldn't see, what his coaches and teammates knew, was that this wasn't arrogance. It was raw, unbridled passion, a competitive inferno that hadn't learned its limits. Then, out of nowhere came the catastrophe, a torn ACL in the spring of 2021. In college football news, a devastating blow for the University of Georgia, as one of its star players is sidelined for the 2021 season. Junior wide receiver George Pickens tore his right knee during a non-contact drill in spring practice on Tuesday afternoon. For most guys, that's a year on the shelf. Some never come back the same. Pickens, however, waged war on his recovery. Dawn training sessions, late-night therapy, an unbreakable focus, and just 8 months later, on the stage of the national championship, he made the single most important play of the night. He's taking a shot downfield for George Pickens, a diving grab from the elite receiver. It was a 52-yard bomb that completely changed the game's momentum, catapulting Georgia to its first title in 41 agonizing years. So when draft night came, teams weren't just scouting a player. They were gambling on a superstar talent against a history they couldn't quite decipher. Make no mistake, on paper, the guy was a freak, a guaranteed first-round pick, a 6'3" monster with unreal body mechanics who tore up the SEC. He had that raw, primal aggression every team claims they want. But when doors closed and the real talks began, organizations started getting nervous. The whispers grew louder. Certain franchises saw him as a genuine headcase, a ticking time bomb whose fuse they weren't about to try and defuse. They questioned the ACL, the sideline explosions, and whether he could ever be the leader of an NFL locker room. And so, teams like Green Bay, Kansas City, and New Orleans all opted for the safer bets. But not Pittsburgh. The Steelers have a legacy of embracing receivers with an edge. Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Juju, Deontay. Pickens was forged from the same steel. When he tumbled all the way to pick 52, they knew exactly the weapon they were getting. And from his very first rookie practice, their gamble looked like pure genius. Pickens absolutely dismantled every single drill. Absurd one-handed snags, explosive moves off the line. By the time OTAs rolled around, defensive backs were utterly demoralized from trying to cover him. Year 2 was supposed to be the George Pickens coronation. Instead, it became an absolute powder keg. He's a marked man just because of who he is, George. He knows it. But he has to mature, and it has to happen fast. The Steelers' 2023 offense was a black hole for a rising star. 3 different quarterbacks and one of the league's lowest deep pass attempt rates. Their entire passing attack ranked in the bottom 5 for big plays. Yet, Pickens still found ways to dominate. He led the entire team in yards per route, got open on over 40% of his one-on-one matchups, and somehow ended the year with a mere 63 catches for 814 yards. The production was a lie compared to the film. And that's when the volcano of frustration finally erupted. The sideline meltdowns, the questionable effort on that one play, the infamous free me post, and then the firestorm of criticism came for him. Every single team in the National Football League sees that behavior, and they know exactly who you are now. When did this kind of behavior become acceptable in Pittsburgh, a city that for generations has been the gold standard? Was this a young phenom trapped inside an offense that couldn't unleash him? It definitely starts to wear on you, especially when the people who actually know you, they know you're not that guy. His anger wasn't ego, it was ambition with nowhere to burn. By early 2025, the outcome was inevitable. Something had to give, and the change was seismic. George Pickens has been traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Wait, what? In return, the Steelers get a 2026 third-round pick and a 2027 fifth-rounder. The second George Pickens put on a Cowboys helmet, the entire dynamic of their offense shifted. His debut wasn't an introduction, it was a threat. 112 yards in his very first game. It was a clear announcement to a new city, I am here. From that moment forward, his rise was relentless and absolute. 3rd and 8. Prescott drops back. Slant to Pickens. He catches it, spins out of a tackle. First down. He hurdles a defender. By the middle of the season, he'd already racked up 5 100-yard games, shredding defenses that specifically schemed to stop him and failed miserably. Dak's trust in him was immediate and total. Back shoulder fades, impossible windows, 50-50 balls. Pickens turned every single target into a statement. Ball in his hands, then a hurdle, and he's finally taken down inside the 10. His target share exploded into true number one receiver territory, and his contested catches became a weekly spectacle with the highest success rate in the league. Even his raw numbers soared. 18 yards a catch in Pittsburgh became almost 20 in Dallas. Finally, the opportunity matched the otherworldly talent. He wasn't just getting more stats. He was transforming into the monster everyone secretly knew he could be. This is just a phenomenal play by George Pickens. He's got 7 catches for over 20 yards. That puts him in the top 3 in the entire NFL. But the real change wasn't on the stat sheet. It was in his demeanor. In Pittsburgh, his frustration was a burden. In Dallas, his confidence was a weapon. The drama was gone, replaced by pure domination. George Pickens is the most talented receiver on that roster. He started blocking with more ferocity. He celebrated with his team, and the monster games just kept piling up. He put on a clinic against the Eagles' secondary, play action, Prescott standing tall, incredible protection, a deep crossing route to the middle of the field. Pickens, 9 receptions, 147 yards, and a touchdown on the national stage. A deep shot down the left sideline. Pickens, soaring. Are you kidding me? Pickens? But to truly grasp the phenomenon of George Pickens, the explosion, the firestorm, the sheer volatility, the complete metamorphosis, you have to look past the highlight reels. Because beneath the defiant swagger, the viral moments, and the screaming headlines, George Pickens is not the monster the media painted him to be. Everyone was obsessed with talking about, his narrative, his background, all of that noise. But that young man has been an absolute pleasure to guide. And let me tell you, the raw electricity he injects into this team is utterly contagious. Now, I would never label a receiver as completely unstoppable, but damn, he's dangerously close. He's something far more fundamental, a pure competitor who experiences everything at maximum volume. That razor's edge wasn't forged from ego. It was hammered into him during childhood. Pickens was raised in an environment where intense emotion wasn't a flaw, it was a weapon for survival. It's not that I care about what everyone thinks, but there were certain people I needed to prove wrong about me. He was molded by a family that demanded more, and coaches who saw toughness as a prerequisite. Forged in the crucible of Alabama football, where physicality wasn't just encouraged, it was the core of your identity. So when the world sees him erupt on the sidelines, they call it a bad attitude. His teammates? They see a warrior so desperate to dominate the game that being without the ball feels like a prison sentence. And of course, I'm having the time of my life, but when you can deliver the ball to a guy like that who makes the grab and then you just watch him humiliate defenders trying to leap over them, he is consumed by football. He's on edge because he demands perfection from himself. He's fiery because he knows the impossible is within his reach. He's not demanding the ball because he craves the spotlight. He's demanding it so he can seize the moment. That is the George Pickens. The cameras miss a young man demonized because his passion is too immense to be contained on the field. And that leads us to the terrifying truth the league is finally being forced to confront. Pickens isn't just developing into a great receiver. He is transforming into the force of nature he was always meant to be. He's in the perfect city, with the perfect quarterback, in the perfect system. And the version of George Pickens the NFL is now witnessing in Dallas is the very player scouts fantasized about when he was 18 years old. Pickens didn't fix himself. He didn't alter his core identity. He simply found a home that decided to weaponize his fire, instead of trying to extinguish it. George, they're saying that since the moment you got here, you have not stopped grinning. Yeah, and I never used to smile. And that one statement is precisely why the rest of the league should be on high alert. Because a fully unleashed George Pickens isn't just dangerous. He's a foregone conclusion. His meteoric rise forces one final chilling question. If this is only the beginning, how high can this man truly fly? This is Strip Sack, where we dissect the athletes who are more than just talented, they're complicated, ferocious, and absolutely unmissable. If you're addicted to deep dive narratives, breakout legends, the fire of the underdog, and the reality behind what forges these titans into who they are, make sure you smash that subscribe button, because the next saga drops soon and you don't want to be left in the dark.